This is Dbg Connect. You've heard the obstacles. Now I want us to go into the solutions and some of the opportunities around. For example, speaking about land, KK mentioned that the Millennium Development Authority is working on a project. That is a solution. It's called the Economic Enclaves Project. You may just Google MIDA Economic Enclaves Project. You see that they have 10,000 acres in Chopoli, 20,000 acres in Dambai, 20,000 acres in Kumeru, and it's going on and on and on. So if you want to a place for production, you can apply through the Millennium Development Authority for that. But I'll come to you, Mr. Duka. I want to stay with KK and JK for a bit more before I come to you. So you've mentioned the challenges, and I know you are in the space. The two of you have been working a lot in the space. There are institutions like GEPA, there's Exim Bank, there's I'm trying to remember all the names, and there are donor agencies doing all sorts of things in the space like SNV, GIZ, and all that. In the midst of all these challenges, what are some of the solutions in the space? Public-led solutions, private sector-led solutions, development partner-led solutions that people can take advantage of to grow in this particular space, before I even talk about your various institutions and what you're doing and the larger push by the DBG. KK, I'll start with you.
I think first, we've got to strategize which value chains we want to do. That's the first one. Looking at our resources and how we can support. 2, we've got to learn how to build upon existing things. And let me give you an example for that. Guinness is now doing a lot of LR and local raw materials using sorghum. It's been going on for, and they're growing day by day. If I was in the public sector, I wanted to create more value to agriculture, because let me say you are then reducing your imports of barley, hops, and so forth. I would see what I can do to leverage and even increase it more, and what incentives do I need to give to Guinness. Okay, so first, strategy, what value chain you want to do. 2, let's build upon those things that are happening. So, for example, we have a very strong oil palm sector in this country. We've got 5 large oil palm firms in this country, multinationals. All right. 2 things. Is it our interest to promote also indigenous businesses there? What can we do to help them? What can we do to leverage on those existing oil palm businesses there? So that's where I like to focus. And 3, okay, also, how do we coordinate? I mean, how do we coordinate and ensure everybody comes around the table?
So all those institutions doing bits and pieces, we need to bring them together.
All on the table. And then, so I've always proposed that the Minister of Food and Agriculture should have a strong agribusiness desk. I mean, it's just like ours are trying to fill in the vacuum. But you know, there are those issues that are built to do that. That if I walk to MOFA today, I should be able to work there and get a desk that will help provide that coordination role and link me up to all the key players. We need to do that one ASAP. Because in terms of the demand side, trust me, I can speak for, I'm sure Julian can speak for, every day we're getting all kinds of applications, people wanting loans to set up agribusinesses or coming with new ideas. That is never in, it's abundance.
Yeah.
The challenge is what makes it possible for them to realize their dream. And that's what I would say.
Okay, Julian, what are some of the opportunities? You work in the space, so you work with a lot of different partners. If somebody wants to grow in this space, new entrant, existing business, what are some of the opportunities?
I think it's very similar to what Keke said. What is missing is that focus that gives us clear line of sight on where we start building our own internal expertise and also applying some risk in that environment. You can never zero risk agriculture, anything in life, but agriculture even less so. But getting it into acceptable risk levels is what we're looking for. And some of the things Keke said are really it. So the opportunities, they are there. The reality is, for instance, if someone comes in and a bank was to finance a particular, crop, not end to end, that becomes a challenge. We've spoken about, for instance, identifying the opportunity to identify maybe one particular value chain. You get 3 or 4 banks together and to say that we're going to grow, for instance, maize. And like I said, I mean, there are other people, other organizations that have private sector, their own funds have gone in and invested heavily in things like maize. Mm-hmm. You look at all the various players, the off-takers are there. The off-takers who could even support early enough by committing which can be financed by the bank based on the assurance of the productivity and getting the raw material, and then the quality. And so you could have 3 or 4 banks come and say, okay, I will take on the production side. Another bank would say, I'll support the farm level infrastructure, not like the roads, because that's a different conversation. But for instance, if they need the machinery, silos, etc., I will support that. And then someone says, I will also support the off-taker with regards to the purchasing until they go to sale. That's only 3 parts of the value chain. But because all 3 banks know what part they're playing, if I do my bit well with a clear understanding, it supports the ability for the person who financed infrastructure to be repaid, and also the off-taker will also get their high-quality product and also be able to sell and repay, and the whole chain is done. What you say about all the various organizations, I totally agree, Kiki. I think it's very fragmented. There doesn't seem to be, let's put a lot of resource into 2 or 3 key value chains, and let's all hands to the pump, try and deal with it. We talk about the challenges that we see, even though there's the opportunity. If you finance someone who has got a fantastic product really at the farm gate, but the ability based on infrastructure to move it from there, maintain the quality to the off-taker or to export, you can actually end up in default as a result. And if you look in the current environment, the support the bank needs is to reduce the non-performing element of agri sector loans. Much as we say a lot of banks are doing it, I know GIRSAL has stepped in, Dbg is helping with restructuring, doing better structured finance for agriculture. The default rate for agriculture for banks is still highest in comparison to all other sectors. But some of the issues are very easy to resolve, which are some of the things that we're discussing. Because if you have a strong land tenure system, I totally agree with that concept. I've said it over and over again. We know, we have serious land banks. Maybe this is harsh, but should we be having conversations around forced purchase of certain land areas? It might not be politically correct, but even the benefit or the realization of the output from that will serve the actual owners in a more structured form. You can build trust or whatever it is. But when someone decides that I need 5 square meters, if you look at cassava and starch, they say you need to do about 2,000 hectares or something to be able to do a cycle, to do it in high levels, to actually make your money back. To get 1,000 hectares of land in Ghana, you probably speak to about 15 different families. Another 15 will reappear. And if you don't get a land tenure right, what collateral does the bank have? Yeah. You talk about the risk of the actual product itself. If they don't have a technical assistance, the growing methods. And the other thing that has been a bit of a bane for me, I spoke about research. There's building on what we have. I'm sure CSR has done so much research that is sitting on shelves at the moment as we speak. When you're going into full production now, if you want to buy seeds, the majority of the time you're importing seeds, right? True. If you want to do large scale. And you're importing seeds from countries that have probably invested in the soil sampling and understanding the yield per acre or whatever it is of that thing. Now, as a bank, if I'm going to use it to determine, and you bring maize and I'm supposed to get, for want of 100 kilos or 100 metric tons of something per a certain amount. But because of the soil sampling and because of the growing methods and the science around getting it, I end up with 50. I've done your ability to repay based on 100 metric tons, and yet I get 50. Yeah. Default straight away. And so we feel there's the opportunity. I think that conversation around a focused approach, the technical support, research, infrastructure, policy, and value chain focus as a trial, that will give us the inroads. Because you mentioned 3 places. You see, the work that Ivory Coast has done on cashew is the reason why they can produce as much as cocoa. And that was a focus on cashew. It wasn't a focus on 400 different crop types.
So we need to be focused, we need to be targeted, and then, like you've all said earlier, we need to collaborate with different agencies. And talking about land, so I went to get some land for my farm. Initially, we negotiated for 100 acres, and then I could only afford 20 acres, right? So I took the 20 acres, started land development, then somebody comes and says, oh, Assassino, this part is for me. Now, it was just about 2 plots, not even up to 1 acre. The problem I went through having to deal with that family to resolve that issue, because we had already cleared and we were putting infrastructure in place. So if we dealt with this, people could then acquire a lot of land. Because if you want 1,000 hectares, for example, that's almost the size of Legon. And you may have to deal with different institutions before you settle down to do this. And by the time you are done, you are gone. And there's also something that is creeping up. And I like the fact that you said you think maybe we should forcefully take land or strategically take land. If you look at the Ekrapem North, Ekrapem South, all those places strategically were supposed to be left as a buffer zone, food production, to feed the city. Now I go there and real estate companies have acquired the lands, all the lands. So if you need an acre of land to farm, which hitherto you could rent for say 100 cedis a year or buy for say 1,000, 2,000 cedis, now an acre of land around the area is going for $40,000, $50,000 in parts of Ebri. If you want to go further to Pokrom, 120,000 Ghana cedis. If you want to go way beyond Ekropong, you're looking at 40,000 cedis. The average youth or the average farmer cannot take land for 40,000 cedis per acre. So I really like the fact that you brought that up. Now, let me come to you, Mr. Duka. You've heard GIRSAL, you've heard Julian, Fidelity Bank, talk about all the challenges. But if we fixed all these challenges, we'll need to get the funding right. How do businesses, and even, so this is in 3 ways. How do we, as a country, put in place the structures to de-risk agribusiness financing? How do financial institutions position themselves well to be the key drivers of growth? And how do businesses themselves in the ag business also prepare themselves and ready themselves to accept and grow the financing they get, considering that we've laid the right foundations to keep everybody moving?
No, thank you. And listening to my 2 friends here is just music to my ears, because we're so aligned in so many areas. So to look at your question, DBG was set up to respond to a need and a big gap in the market. So our mandate primarily, if you get very technical, is to provide long-term CD financing to the private sector as a basis of helping the private sector grow and fostering a competitive private sector. But the solutions, again, as we've said repeatedly, go beyond the funding. But they're related in the sense that as a nation, we have to be sensitive and supportive of sustainable prosperity. And if I use the word profit and profitability other than sustainable prosperity, it's the same thing. We have to understand that we can only build long-term prosperity if we allow companies and businesses to grow, and dare I say, people become rich doing that. And the only way we'll do that is right from the beginning, we set some principles. And that's what we're trying to do in our own small way as we continue to build. Yes, we have, I think we said earlier, we've lent about $1 billion. But the key principles are key.
You've lent about $1 billion in
Series,
your
2 years.
2 years of existence.
Yeah, but it's still not enough. And it's nowhere near enough the deficit that we're talking about. But it's more important about what we do in terms of changing mindset and collaboration. And number 1 is to accept that it is good to build profitable companies. We have to accept that. And the way you do that is make sure that we all support bankable deals. And it sounds easy to say, and it sounds obvious. But you only get bankable deals when you have the knowledge provided by GIRSAL, when you have the understanding of all the technical issues that Julian was going through. And that ensures that you're having that you're putting together a bankable deal. And that's key. The second thing that we have to look at is to realize that the role of government is more about policy than anything. If government were to just focus on policy, the impact it would have would be 10, 20x, as opposed to some of the things that are going on today, where government tries to get into business, government tries to provide inputs, etc., in a very limited way. The third thing that we need to look at is the importance of the mature and the bigger farms, particularly in agriculture. And why is that important? It's important that because of our leverage, when we make our loans to them, we can ensure that the mature farms, the bigger farms, are the ones that support the community and are the ones that support the small holdings. And they do it in a way that is both disciplined, structured, but again ensures profitability for the community. So when they're clearing land, they clear for the community. When they're bringing in seed, they bring for the community.
Irrigation projects, the community can
The community, exactly right. Now, who does a better job of doing that than the bigger farmer or government? Right. I rest that case. Right. But let's use that leverage to be able to change behaviors. Right. The enclave that we spoke about earlier is purely a pilot to show the importance of collaboration. And what we have to do is use that as a template to be able to build and go from there. And we find out that even as we lend, it's far more important what we do in terms of business development, capacity building, patient assistance, as opposed to patient capital. And we do not support any initiative that does not have an exit plan to the market. Yes, many of our farmers need initial help. Sometimes they need concessionary help. That's fine. But it must be aligned with an exit plan in the next 3 to 5 years to be able to operate on your own and grow. And if we have those key principles, government focusing on policy, the banks and everybody understanding that for long-term prosperity, we all have to make sure that we earn revenue. Then we start having the same conversation because everybody will insist that the deals are bankable. Because we know that if we get it right, the return for everyone, including the nation, becomes multiples rather than what we have today.
Great. So you believe that if we got these things right, some of the things that we are seeing may not be necessary. For example, fertilizer distribution, seed distribution, motorbike distribution.
Let me give you an example. Maybe I think I don't like telling stories because then people can appreciate it. Yeah. Look, take the horticulture industry, pineapple industry. By 2003, we're doing about $35 million of exports, wow. Mainly driven by Ghanaian farmers, combined farms of old. I mean, we all know of them. Then there was a market varietal shift from sugarcane to MD2. Good and exotic, those are doing banana, we're doing pineapples. I remember when they were trying to get a land at Kwesi, the irrigation scheme, I was involved in helping them. I remember it was a fight that we had to make the case that, look, you got a company, comes to a banana plantation. Today, they're doing close to about 100,000 metric tons or so, millions of euros. Now the question, so we moved from pineapple C, and banana has filled that space even more than what we do in pineapple. Why hasn't anyone in the public sector said, oh, goodness me, a private sector firm working in Cote d'Ivoire, working in Cameroon, has set up a large banana farm here. In fact, the largest organic certified banana farm is in Ghana.
In the world?
In the world, globally, it's in Ghana. No, a lot of people don't know. Yes, the largest globally certified banana farm is in Ghana. Because our weather is not as humid as Cameroon, for example. Now, this was in 2005, 6, 7, 8. We're in 2023, and public sector does not recognize that we could have even built up on the research set up by Good and Exotic. Now, what happens? Should I speak now? The same private company is being frustrated because there are issues at Chennai at the port, where you got what I'll call rent seekers trying to manage it, where in the horticultural industry, you got to manage it from your production right to your, what you call the field to the fork. Now, you'd have thought that you could leverage on that, and that's what I talk about the private sector. So today, if I'd done that, Ghana would be exporting maybe 200 million euros worth of banana, very competitively, because our climate is better than that in Cameroon, where you got to do more fungicide applications and so forth. These are the kind of things I'm talking about here. Strategizing, building upon what private sector has done with its own resources. It's very easy. So it's okay, I will turn the whole enclave to banana. How do I get the private sector people, those in the pineapple industry, incentive? Because they've shown that they are willing to invest, but they've lost money. How do I get them back on the banana? What is it that will help them get back? Because they have the passion, they have the strength, they have the technical knowledge to do it. That is what I'm talking about. And that's why
the interesting thing with the banana industry in Kwesi, it's supporting the poultry industry in the eastern region to thrive. They're buying all the animal waste, which hitherto was a problem for the poultry farmers, to turn into compost. So the poultry farmers are getting extra revenue. So as Poultry around the country is struggling. They are getting extra income from their waste, from the banana industry.
We have employs over 3,500 people. You know, and look at the impact on this. On the, so the question is that, and so you ask yourself, and you know, if private sector is able to do that, how much more? What can the public sector do? What can you make it easier to make it for them to be able to accelerate? Everything about moving using a leverage on the railway line being built from the Korboe to the port. But then there are challenges because of the issue of Shed 9. You know, so I keep asking myself sometimes that as a country, I mean, we all got to sit back. There's a lot of noise, too much noise in this country. We got to sit back and say, look, let's leverage on what someone is doing and let's move on. Because, like I said, where I sit, you'll be surprised. People come to us every day from the banks who have no inkling of agriculture at all. But they're going in because they realize that whatever it is, somebody will eat.
There's opportunity there.
Opportunities. I mean, and then number two, the other thing to is that agricultural products, like Julian said, they have multi-uses. Maize can be commoditized. It's a biofuel. Institutional demand. They can be used for so many things. And whether or not, you will eat. You know, so we're praying that maybe, I hope this went by so many.
No, but if I could add one thing to that, we have to be realistic. Our farmers need help, especially at the beginning. And so there's nothing wrong with providing concessionary help and to get them up to start. But at the same time you're doing that, you must have a plan for them to exit that concession help. If not, they become dependent on that, and then you have an issue. So that's when we talk about bankable, it doesn't mean that you have to start off at market. No, nobody's saying that. We will give you all the help, and Dbg to Fidelity, YEF programs, etc. We're dedicated because we all want to build a thriving private sector. There is nothing wrong with that, but it cannot be something that is a long-term plan. It must be there to get you to the level that you need. And the other thing that I would say, that even as you give them that support, whether it's government, banks, etc., the long-term goal must be the same, to build sustainable prosperity. And we have to start measuring outputs. Right? We can no longer be looking at the inputs we put in and say we've done a great job. We have to be focused, disciplined, and say, what is the outputs of what we provided, whether it's fertilizer, whether it's day-old chicks, etc. What is the output? And once we start measuring, then we can see whether things have succeeded or failed. And it's okay to fail, as long as we've learned from it. And
it's okay to fail as long as you've learned.
As long as you learn from it, right? And that is how you build long-term prosperity for a nation.
I want us to talk about women, financing women businesses, sustainability, and everything else. But I don't have enough time, but I'll still try to squeeze everything in. And for our audiences, to give you a picture of the opportunity, let me give this example. And I know we're all following the news, so we know that Israel is at war. And so I want to use Israel as an example. The total land size of Israel is about 22,000 square kilometers. The total land size of Ashanti region in Ghana is 25,000 square kilometers. Ashanti region has more arable land, more water, a better climate. Israel doesn't. But their agric exports is almost at par with our general GDP. That should give you a sense of, so you're talking about outputs and outcomes. So if we are doing so much, and we take even Ashanti region and a nation like Israel, look at the outputs and outcomes, you see that we need to do a lot more. So as a people, there are opportunities, and there's an opportunity here to deal with these three institutions to grow. So make up your mind that you can succeed in this space and work towards it. But let me come to you, Julian, before I come to KK and Mr. Dika for extra thoughts on sustainability and how to strategically target women farmers. I really want to ask this because the last World Bank report I read about women entrepreneurship suggested about 80% of businesses in Ghana, small scale, middle, whatever, 80% of businesses are owned by women, but just about 20% of financing goes their way. And a lot of women also have a lot of dependents. So if we grew that space and targeted them, maybe we could lift a lot of people out of poverty. So I want you to think, Kiki and Saduka, think about targeting women businesses in agribusiness and how to really help them scale. But Julian, I'm coming to you, strictly business. So you are my banker, and indeed you are my banker. I just got the message from your bank. I think I paid somebody and the person, the account is being depleted, but I have them. I've done everything right. All the concerns you've shared, all the problems, I've solved them. Now I need financing. What's the checklist you look out for before you decide that this agribusiness is ready for our assistance? And what do you have? What solutions does Fidelity Bank have for the industry?
So I think we've spoken about even though people think that collateral is one of the key requirements, it isn't always the case, especially when it comes to agriculture. And because we have an affirmative position with regards to driving agriculture, one, we're talking about a bankable deal. A bankable deal will be, at the end of the day, if you're taking a loan, regardless of how long-term or the cost, it has to be repaid. And I think Kay spoke about the exit. So the first is the plan. If you're going to do, what are we expecting out of it? What forecast are we going to work with you with regards to your ability to repay the hard cash from the cycle you're doing? The other thing is your own capacity with regards to the technical expertise that you have to give us the confidence that what we forecast will happen. And so we need to understand, either if it's not yourself, so we've spoken about people who are not necessarily in that sector investing. What you find is the majority of those people invest in bringing expertise. They'll bring, a farm manager who's got expertise in at cost. They'll bring in other production
mechanization,
mechanization, etc. Blah blah. So that is one of the ticks we're looking at based on the size that you're looking at. The other thing we're looking at, the final will be the collateral conversation. The collateral is normally about skin in the game, because it's obvious that if someone goes in with zero risk of their own, the likelihood to walk away from challenges is a lot higher. And that's why banks always look for a bit of skin in the game. And it doesn't have to be substantial. It's actually based on what is being done. So sometimes you even be expected to start yourself. You can't come to the farm, to the bank and say, I'm now going to find the land. So I need the money to buy the land. After that, I need to buy seeds. After I buy the seeds, I now need you to support me through the growing and then help me to find a customer too. That's not a bankable deal. And so majority of the time, I think there's a slightly higher probability of getting finance when there's a tangible start to the project. So the land is there, some of the technical details have been dealt with, and we know there's something we can lay our hands on to say this is what the production will be. The other thing is the out, so access to market. You can say I'm producing, but a real question is who are you going to sell to? What contacts, what off-taker agreements? You don't have to have a formalized off-taker agreement. If you choose a crop where we know from our data that there's a high demand for it, we can sometimes even do the connecting to say that this person's doing that, and the other. This feed production company needs access to your product, and therefore we can even do the connection. But you should be able to articulate what the exit is. What are you going to do? And then finally is the second way out conversation. If all fails in the absence of collateral, etc., how do we get ourselves out of that position? That is normally the most difficult question to answer, because if it's the be-all and end-all, then it's very difficult for you to work out. So those are some of the ingredients that create that. There are a few others, as in proximity to the infrastructure that supports what you're doing to reduce the risk, etc. But we are there to also provide the support of, working with GIRSAL, with Dbg, we've actually restructured existing facilities which hitherto were not performed because of the way the bank's understanding of it as a traditional
But
loan.
my follow-up question was, how are you working with GIRSAL and Dbg? So go a bit deeper into that for me.
Exactly. So there are times when I've spoken about the lack of expertise within banks, and we have to put our hands up, because we're good at the lending to traditional. But where the technical expertise comes in to understand how you even structure do, I think banks have failed in the past, including ourselves. And what we found is when you get a GIRSAL involved about a restructure, maybe a loan in difficulty or a loan where we're starting to see that there's potential challenges around the corner. What they bring is some of the language that I was speaking earlier, and lots of it is learned from our interactions with the GIRSALs and co. Understanding what was the expectation with regards to output. Even what is the minimum amount that needs to be produced to make this a bankable deal. So maybe you structured something, the person said, okay, I've got 1,000 acres, but I want to do 200 to start. And yet the 200 allowing for failure will not be able to repay the loan that you've done. So the minimum is, no, you have to, they will say do a minimum of 500, 600. So it's actually better for us to finance a 500, 600 with the assurance of a higher likelihood of payment than going in softly and say, well, I'm only prepared to do, say, 10 million CDs for this person because that's what I'm comfortable with. Because it's a recipe for failure. And so we have some very strong cases where we've gone in, restructured with the support, and that makes it also the ability for GIRSAL to de-risk it a bit by offering the guarantee. Because if it's structured in a way where they know there's a higher likelihood of them repaying, then the guarantee won't pay out. People need to understand the guarantee is not a what do you call it? It's not a grant. The guarantee is basically offering a de-risking in the high likelihood of everything else failing, you fall on it. But to all intents and purposes, it's structured in such a way that repayments will come in. So we've done quite a lot where we've actually restructured existing loans that hitherto were not doing very well. We've even had instances where the agreement was, we started financing a particular purchase of maybe an existing farm, where GIRSAL stepped in and said, kill that conversation because of the likelihood of failure and start somewhere else. And we migrate to that new one, and the higher likelihood of success actually happens. So we have some of those strong examples, and that's what we've been.
And how, you've mentioned GIRSAL. How are you working with DBG, for example, to finance agribusinesses?
Like I said, I mean, the DBG element is really around not just the patient capital, as Kay said, but it's actually the patients around going through a cycle. So I think we're one of the highest at the moment, probably, especially in the agri sector, with regards to our partnership with DBG. And what that has done for us is pricing conversation, because you make it a bit more viable in a high interest rate environment. Because you're getting access to slightly lower cost funds, you can actually price it in a better way. The second one is term and flexibility. So you can offer moratoriums and things like that if you have more patient capital to lend. And those are some of the things that we've done. In addition, so it's always been, I think everything we do with DBG is also firmly supported by GIRSAL. Because if DBG would also have to, even though the risk is on the bank, they want the bank to be able to repay. And the bank also wants the assurance that in the event there's a challenge, GIRSAL is supported, and then they can also step in. So I think that collaboration is working very, very well, and that's how it's been working.
Now, KK, before I come to you to address the woman issue, let me just quickly go to Mr. Duka. So, about
woman issue, you should go to him.
I'll come to you too. I don't know, but I think there are about 25 to 30 or so banks in the country. 23 banks in the country. And from your website, I think there are about 6 or 7 or 8 banks working with DBG. What should the other banks do to qualify or to be in a good position to work with DBG to support the market as well?
Oh, it's an ongoing process.
Okay.
So we go through a due diligence process. It's not a competitive process, just one after the other. It takes a bit of time, mainly because of the covenants that our lenders behind us have put on us. But we're doing, I think at the moment we're now at 8. By the end of the year, we'll be at 11. And we're not just doing the banks, we're also doing the savings and loans. We just signed on Sinapi. And so that process is just ongoing. So just give us time and we'll get there. But just one thing I just want to add to the conversation is that, again, it's all about mindset and understanding that we all share the same goal, which is sustainable prosperity. So you as a local business, if you have someone of the stature of GIRSAL, give me advice on the technical side of things about the yield, the soil, the crop, the agronomy and all that. And on the other side, you have somebody giving you the advice on the financing, how to ensure that the deal is bankable, how to make sure you're covered through the value chain. And Julian gave a fantastic explanation of what the value chain is. So that he can tell you, this is a risk. Don't do it this way because you haven't done this. Because they have a full picture of the full value chain. And if you consider these two parties as your advisors and you listen to them, how can you fail? And that's the mindset we want to change. That they're not there to inhibit you because your goal of making money is the same as theirs. So that's how we need to work together. And that's why we always speak about collaboration.
Great. Your goal of making money is the same as the goal of Fidelity, GIRSAL, Dbg, even the consumers, because you also want to make money to buy your stuff. So let's collaborate and work together. Now, KK, how do you address the issue of financing women? It comes up everywhere we go. Women say, we are working so hard, we are not getting financing, we are not getting support. What should we do in that particular instance? You know why I'm directing it at you first. If you go to GIRSAL, majority of the staff are women. If you go to Fidelity Bank too, majority of the directors are women. So we start from here and we'll go to Julian.
All right. Well, no, I mean, we don't lend money.
Yeah.
What we do is to, like Julian and Kay said, incentivize the banks, provide technical support for them to lend. But the reality is that most agribusinesses are run by women. I mean, a lot of women. So the SME, you go to the supermarkets and see various products. I mean, nice packaging, all that. A lot of them are owned by women. We've done a number of export by women of products to UK and so forth. Now, I mean, the critical issue here is that what we offer technical assistance support to the banks. And as such, and I know that most of the banks are rolling out various programs. I mean, Fidelity is rolling out a lot of programs. Now you're even doing MasterCard, which looks at the impact of women, youth, and so forth. And before I'm chased here by the men, my informal study shows that women tend to be more dependable when they're paying their loans than men. I mean, I sound corrected, but so far that's what I've observed last 5 years. So that expertise allows the banks to make it easier for women to fill the space, you know. But then I should also congratulate the banks because a lot of them have also secured other funding, like the Dbg other fund that is also impactful. You look at impactful funding for women, purposely set up to support women and youth in agriculture, and we support them on that. So that's how indirectly we do support them. But the other thing we also do is we try, because of moral hazards, not to get too much into the demand side. But then we've also, and also because we deal with a number of banks, we actively deal about 10 of the 23 banks who we have portfolios, who we've guaranteed loans to. We also have to be very careful that Julian will not feel that
You're taking over his
no, that I'm selling secrets to his competitor. Because we're all trying to invigorate the agribusiness sector. But we're also mindful there are all individual also banks who are also there to make a profit. So we try and keep a balance. But like I said, we work with them, we encourage them, and we make sure that we put the systems in place that allows for women to come on board.
Mm-hmm. I'll take a 30-second addition from Julian, and then we'll take our final words.
No, I think I can't tell you. We launched our gender initiative last year as a bank, and that included doing some analysis internally. And what Kiki said is true. We actually found, looking at our loan data, one, we had lent slightly a bit less to women businesses, but the non-performing loans for women businesses, it's significantly lower than it is for men. So it gives the impression that women are more committed and more committed to actually repaying. That's one of the things we found out. The other thing is we've partnered with the MasterCard Foundation and a few other external agencies where we're looking at focused product development for women. I think most of those will come into evidence over the next 3 to 6 months, where we are looking at loans targeting women in business. Because the data shows, and when we did our gender initiative, it was more around increasing the existence of women at the top end of the pyramid. Every organization, you have less people at the top than at the bottom, and you find a lot of organizations, maybe the gender balance is maybe 60-40 lower down, and as you get up to the top of the pyramid, you find that it becomes more men. But when we did that was more an insular approach, and then we realized that what is the perception of Fidelity out there for our client base? That's when the data showed us that we hadn't got specific targeted products for women. We hadn't realized that women are actually better payers of loans, actually more committed. And when it comes to savings projects we've done also in the north, women are better savers as well. And so it affirms that, but we are going to have to be deliberate, which is what we're doing, around partnerships, product development, which is focused primarily on women.
This is Dbg Connect. My name is Kojo Akoto-Boateng. We are wrapping up our conversation for today. My guests, K and JK and KK and okay, it's for a Ghanaian, if you are from the south, you are definitely going to have a K in your name. Whether you are from the Asante South, the Fante South, the Korboe South, the Chebi South, even the Ga South, you get Niko Ateni, Nakoko. You definitely get a K in your name. This is Dbg Connect. We are wrapping up. Today's conversation has been about agribusiness finance, the opportunities, the challenges, and some of the solutions in the space. I'm sure when we were starting the conversation, you thought we were going to talk about return on investment, ascertaining the net profits, all those accounting and finance things. But no, these gentlemen here have made us know that finance goes beyond what we think finance is. It's a lot more that comes together to make the space grow. And I've learned quite a lot from them. I'm just going to take their last words. Our take home, really. We've heard the challenges, the solutions, and the opportunities in the space. What should be our approach going forward as individuals, as corporate entities, as state institutions? Final words, gentlemen. I'll start with K, and I'll go to K and end with a K.
On the demand side, they should be transparent. Character is everything. In fact, some of the challenges we face is under the character of even the businesses who require financing. It is very, very important. On the supply side, which is the three of us here, is about we need to maybe respond better and quickly because agriculture is about seasonality. On the public sector side, a lot of work has to be done. Thank you.
Thank you. And to read more about GIRSAL, you can visit their website, www.girsal.com. You'll see what they are doing, the projects, what you need to do to benefit from their solutions, and everything about GIRSAL. They also have an information portal that you can register and get insights in the Greek space to help you plan for your business. If you want to make any investment decision in the space, get GIRSAL's information portal. It's available on girsal.com. Just visit the website and get to know more about GIRSAL. Now let me come to you, Julian.
I think Kiki said most of that. I would say that the key takeaway for all of us should be the fact that we need to demystify this concern around banks not wanting to support. I think it's important that we understand that not just ourselves, with the likes of partnering with the DBGs, etc., banks have a keen interest in growing their loans within the real sector of the economy and also focus on our Greek, which is a key growth engine. Now, the data and history, even the last 4 or 5 years, shows that agriculture, even subject to all the challenges we've spoken about, has remained resilient, either a private sector player or just a resistance to economic cycles. So that means that if we put a bit more effort and focus into agriculture, it could really be that driver of change and create that economic empowerment that we're looking for. So to the other banks we need to create more success stories and use cases which enables other banks that maybe have a resistance to it to get involved. And that's a channel that we're going to try and walk down as a bank as well.
Thank you very much, Julian. And you can visit fidelitybank.com.gh to read more about Fidelity Bank, their services, their products. If you cannot go to the website, just Google Fidelity Bank Kukwa and ask Kukwa all your questions. She will answer them for you. Thank you, Julian. Now let me come to you, Kay.
No, thank you. Thank you, Kojo. We all know the importance of agriculture in terms of food security, in terms of import substitution, foreign exchange. And it's 40% of the workforce is in agriculture. And it's so vital to the success of the nation. And my plea would be that we get into the space. More people come into agriculture. because you have advisors here who will help you both in terms of financing and technical knowledge, and we are there to support them. It's just a great opportunity, and I would encourage everyone to get into agriculture. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Kay. And for DBG, our hosts, visit their website, dbg.com.gh. There's a lot of information on the website. You'll see the collaborating financial institutions. You'll read some of their policy documents. All that is on the DBG website. So visit dbg.com.gh, dbg.com.gh. You get a lot more information on DBG. My name is Kojo Akoto Boateng. It's been great hosting this session, DBG Connect. It's available on all our social media platforms, on YouTube, on Facebook, on X, used to be Twitter, and everywhere. And if you ever find the link, share with your friends, share with your family. Let's grow the space together. Let me tell you a personal story. I started my career as a DJ. I became a morning show host. Started my first business, an IT business. In fact, my business built the Africa Continental Free Trade Area website. I went into construction. I've built 2 TV stations, lots of buildings around the city, and I'm in agric, and I can tell you that the most viable industry in this country, in this world, is agric. So if you've learned something today, make your move now. If you're already in the space, correct your ways, get on the right path, and let's grow together with the support of DBG, GIRSAL, Fidelity Bank, and all partners. Thank you for watching.